All right, well, it is exactly 1 o'clock Eastern. So I know that a lot of individuals are here on their lunch break, so I will go ahead and kick us off if that works for you, Elizabeth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our event today. My name is Katie. I'm the community director at GDI, and I know that we have a lot of new members that will be joining us today and a lot of new members that are new to GDI. So I just wanted to give a quick overview about GDI and some of our really fantastic partnerships like we have today. So at GDI, our mission is to create welcoming and supportive opportunities for women and non-binary adults to learn software development skills, because we believe in a world where all people should be included in creating the future of technology. That's why we offer affordable projects, classes, events, really big activities like our hackathon that we had at the end of 2021, all to really help the individuals that join our group to develop code, confidence, and community. That's a huge pillar of ours, is really building this community, which is why events like this are so important to us. Really being able to connect with other partner organizations that are doing similar work in the tech space, and really around the nation and around the world, so that there are these opportunities to just learn what to expect, learn what it really means to have a career in this field, not just from a technical standpoint, but also from a cultural perspective as well. So we're really excited today to have Breaking the Glass on with us to really talk about what this all means. Breaking the Glass has a similar mission in tackling gender disparity challenges in the tech industry by creating community programs, professional development, and networking for women in tech and their allies. So we're really thrilled to be able to learn from them, see what it means to be in the world of tech full time, and to develop this partnership and really expand upon it, because we have a really neat opportunity to continue to learn from them and their partners as well. So I'm going to send it over to Elizabeth from Breaking the Glass, who's just going to talk a little bit more about what these future programs and partnerships can look like that they'll be offering before we really dig into our panelists today to be able to learn from their expertise.
Absolutely. Thank you, Katie. Hello, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Lamb, the Partnerships Manager for Breaking the Glass. Breaking the Glass is an initiative created by S3 and Computer Futures to improve gender equity within the tech space. I joined the program in March 2019, and it's been a very exciting journey of growing it from an Austin-based initiative up to a national program, where we also now sit within our organization's ESG department, so we can really get focused on developing partnerships with other communities, like Rad Women, Women Who Code, Girl Develop It as well. So we're very excited for this year. We've partnered with the Girl Development BI chapter to be a career partner. So you'll be seeing events come through once a month for the next 6 months to help develop out your data skills as well, get familiar with other folks in the industry too. So get used to our faces. We're going to be around for a bit. And then additionally, we'll be hosting our monthly signature events every single month, which are open to the greater Breaking the Glass community as well. Our first event kicks off next Wednesday. So get on your calendar the last Wednesday of every month at 1 p.m. Eastern. We will be hosting an event. I just dropped the link for you to register for this one. It should be really great. It's all about essential allies for your career, how you find ally sponsors and mentors to help support you along the way. Without taking up much more of your time, I want to pass it over to Tyler and Susan from Computer Futures. They're on our BI team, and they're absolutely wonderful, and they've been just a great asset to Breaking the Glass as well.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I'll go ahead and share my screen. But while I do that, I can just introduce myself just a little bit. So my name is Tyler Miracle. I've been with Computer Futures for about 3 years now. I started as, we call it a 360, so working both ends of the recruitment cycle with the candidates and then as well working with our clients. I've transitioned now to only primarily working with our clients, kind of building out that relationship, mapping their project pipelines and really understanding what it is they need from their hiring standpoint. And then going to our recruiters like Susan and conveying that message and really figuring out the best way to find the candidates that we need. And I've been working with Breaking the Glass since I started with Computer Futures, but just more recently in the past 6 months to a year, I've joined the board of BTG and just getting more and more involved as I can.
I'll give a little overview too, but honestly, a very similar background to Tyler. We are on the same team, and so that makes it easy. But yes, as he kind of mentioned, I've more on the candidate side. So I do just like recruitment within anything and everything within the data lifecycle. But beyond that, I mean, Tyler and I both have worked on roles outside of that realm too. So honestly, any sort of insight that anyone's looking for, regardless of even the technical space, we can probably help give you some advice. But I am very much so looking forward to continue working with all of you and sharing some tips and tricks just from a recruiter standpoint in a little bit. So thanks for having me today.
Sounds good. So we'll get started. So today's presentation is primarily geared towards the data space, but like Susan said, we specialize in recruitment, and then another sub niche is data. But any questions just about the recruitment life cycle or anything that you think we'd be able to help with, ask away, and we'll try to get it answered for you. And this was just an overview on Breaking the Glass itself. Elizabeth went into that, but if anyone does have any questions or specifically, you can reach out to her or follow her on her LinkedIn page. And here's just the key points that we'll go over today. Getting started with a recruiter, kind of what we expect and what we can provide you. The different paths to getting into data and the different types of roles that we particularly work on with our clients. How to avoid barriers to entry that we've seen within the data space, and then a current market assessment of what we see when speaking to clients when they're looking for data talent.
Okay, so I can kind of give you guys a rundown of basically anything and everything related to kind of what it's like to get started with a recruiter. I will say, like, this is our process. I'm sure there's other processes that other agencies have, but this works for me and Tyler a lot. So I'm definitely here to just kind of give advice on what works with us. But basically some benefits to working with recruiters. I think a lot of people have kind of a weird, perspective on working with recruiters. I think some people think, we're out to get you or poach you or, take things from you. But at the end of the day, we're actually just trying to help you with your job. Our job is to find jobs for you. So we, with that in mind, we do have lots of connections and a very large network. So I would say probably one of the first most important things is that we're very valuable resources during your job search, because we do have a vast network with both candidates and clients. The number of times I've reached out to someone, not even trying to give them a job, but to see if they know of anyone looking for a job it's a lot. So it's something that definitely can happen, on both sides of the spectrum, candidates and clients. But that's how we build our network, and that's how we continue to basically use platforms like LinkedIn or just like word of mouth to try to, create a large network for anyone to rely upon. The second thing is just, we do specialize within a niche technology. So Tyler and I both at Computer Futures, we specialize in placing people within the BI and data space. So for the past, over 2 years now, we've both been very focused on just learning the space and working with people in the space. So that can really give us just a higher kind of like ability to be able to give market insights and knowledge, and just give you kind of like advice on, what your pay range should be, or like who's hiring, like what type of person right now. So it is one of those things where once you've kind of gotten to know the job and stuff, it's a lot easier to have conversations with people who are looking and just make it like a way more productive conversation than just literally sharing a job over the phone. And also to add, so we at Computer Futures, like our team is doing BI data, but we also have teams that focus on other niche technologies. So if you have any friends, or if you're ever considering, even going outside of BI and data, like we can probably put you in touch in that sense too. But the last thing is just the direct connection with end clients. So Tyler, for example, he works more on this, like the client side. So basically the process of how we even, submit your profile is just taking your resume and literally emailing a manager that we have direct personal contact with and sharing your information. And it can be that quick and easy to get you an interview. And then literally within a day or two, you could get an offer, and it'd be that easy. And there's no application process. It's very much so, seamless. And it's because we've established those relationships with the people that we're working with. So it can just make it a lot less hassle when you're going on to a platform and just applying to a job. Like it can end up feeling like you're doing that consistently and not hearing anything back. So working with a recruiter really can kind of give you like that extra step that will get you to where you need to be, or at least we can guide you in the right direction. So I think those are some pretty big benefits overall. How to stand out to us, I do think if you honestly just reach out to a recruiter and introduce yourself, I think that's probably the easiest way. But I typically, when I find my candidates, is I'm in a sense headhunting you all. So I go on to a job board or to like LinkedIn, and I'll type in different things that will basically bring up a search of candidates, and I'll go through those candidates and kind of decide if I think that they're the right fit or not. But a lot of what helps me is when the LinkedIn profile has information on there to basically just give me insight on like what you've been doing in your most recent roles, what your training and education looks like, if you have any certifications, if you have any kind of like references that could add to your experience. So or any endorsements that someone on LinkedIn can give you. Those types of things really stand out just because it's a way for us to kind of get to know you on a deeper level before even like reaching out to you. But I will say that I've placed many people who don't even have lengthy LinkedIn profiles, and it's a matter of the fact that they were open to work and they were immediately looking for opportunities. So that made me realize like maybe their LinkedIn profile is not up to date, but they're obviously looking immediately. So like at least I can get them on the phone and get that information from them right away. So I mean, it's kind of like just the commitment towards being active on a platform to get in touch with the recruiter is probably what will stand out the most to me. So also updating your resume and your LinkedIn profile, you kind of want to make sure that you have those ready and readily available. So typically after a call that I have with a candidate, I will immediately ask for their updated resume, because that's the first thing I need to basically like get anything over to the client. And I want to review it first too, to make sure that there's any corrections I can tell you about. So having that ready to go is definitely appreciated. And then the last couple things that I would say are important are just finding flexibility within your work week. I mean, I've talked to plenty of people who have demanding jobs or just like schedules that might be, pretty full from interviews, or, you've got a couple, like you just have a lot of other priorities going. Just find different pockets of time during the day that work best for you, because no matter what, we're going to ask you for your availability for an interview. And also we do a lot of technical assessments. We'll do video screenings with our candidates. So those types of things take time and commitment. So you want to make sure that you also know when you're free, so we can make the process go more quickly. And then lastly, just know what you want. I mean, honestly, it's hard to think about what you really want in something. And I think it just takes some time to really think about like what you find interesting. Like what is your most motivating factor? Like what will get you to a job? If it's pay, then think about like how much you need, because at the end of the day, like, we just want to know how much you need to like make sure that we can get you that job. If it's that you need remote, then make sure that's your number one thing. Or if there's something about your work culture right now that you don't like, that you want in a different job, then let us know that, because those are the things that we can use to find roles that are relevant to you. So I just think the more that you are comfortable and confident with what you want, the easier it is for a recruiter to be able to find that for you. But with that said, also not everyone does. So that's also why we're here to help, kind of aid you and guide you into like what might be best suited. So it's definitely it's a relationship that hopefully there's a win-win on both sides to it. But the next page is basically just kind of an overview of a candidate resume. So I thought this would be helpful. Basically, this is kind of the format of what we shoot for when we send candidates over to our clients. So it's called a front sheet. So basically, it's just like our formatting, but we try to make it look clean. We try to make everything the same font and stuff. So basically the reason I want to show you is more for like the layout purposes. So as you can see, this candidate actually we placed recently, and I will say this candidate, he was considered for a junior role, and I'm doing this because I want to be transparent, but like he has education, he's got some projects on there, and he's got some work experience on there. It's not that much by any means, but it still is there. And the reason I want to emphasize that is because regardless of what you have, you can make the most out of anything on a resume. So if you only have like a boot camp that you're taking, then elaborate on what you're learning in that boot camp. Like, you want to make it look like that boot camp taught you anything and everything, and you want it on that profile because this is what the client's going to look at. If you have education, that's great. You can even talk about projects that you like took at your school and talk about why those are important, especially if you don't have any work experience. You just want to make sure that like what you have on there is as relevant as possible to what the role is that you're going to be applying to or working with us on. So we can help you with that, but I would say have an objective for sure. So this candidate basically kind of gave a really quick overview of like what they're looking for and what they kind of like a summary of why they're a good candidate. And then the technical skills I think are very important. One thing I would say is you need to be prepared to talk about every single technical skill that is on your resume. So, this is it looks like he has a lot of experience, and I know that he does because we've placed him, but ultimately, like, if you're going to have Bootstrap on there, you better be able to explain like where you use Bootstrap, because if you can't, then the manager's gonna be like, why did you put that on your resume? And we've gotten plenty of like pushback on that. So it's just something that, is definitely important to think about. And you can think about examples of how you would share that too before you even go into an interview, which is also something that we as recruiters help anyone with. But lastly, so you'll see that, they have their experience and their education, all that. My biggest key tip, as I just kind of elaborate at the beginning, is just make sure you are able to explain the impact that you brought to anything that you're doing, and why that was important and how it helped whatever you were doing grow or succeed while incorporating what you were using them with, especially in a technical role. Time and time again, we'll get manager feedback from one of our clients that basically will just say, I like that they have on their profile that, they can do SQL, or they make Tableau dashboards, but like, you're not explaining what you're doing with that Tableau dashboard to make an impact at the business. So, as you can see on this person's profile, on his first bullet point under his most recent job, he wrote, using Tableau dashboards, using advanced techniques and ETL processes in Tableau Desktop and Tableau Prep to save over 40 hours of monthly working time. It's not too specific, but he did all that work to save like work time. He's doing it for a purpose. And I think if you continue to read, he obviously explains even more stuff. And then if you continue to go down the profile, like there's even more information from the other roles that kind of do the exact same thing. So it doesn't need, I mean, it's making a resume and making sure it's concrete and something that's worth being reviewed it does take time, but it's probably the biggest thing that you can use to sell yourself to a candidate client without even using us to sell you in as well. So I just would keep that in mind. But again, it's something that recruiter, like Tyler and I are both individuals that we want to make sure that we can help you also get the job. So that's why we're here to kind of help work with anyone to, kind of review the resume and give any advice and tips. But that is that for that slide. And then the next one is just about popular roles in the data space. So before I go into this, I think just in general, like the paths to getting different roles, there's a number of ways to do it. I've seen people who have education like completely not relevant to the technical space whatsoever, and they still are in the job. So I mean, you could do training, you could do certifications, but I would say that the biggest piece is just making sure that whatever you do, you're very confident in talking about and you're able to elaborate well on your resume. So yes, I do think that at the end of the day, a lot of managers are looking for that degree. They're looking for you to be able to kind of showcase the work you've done. So, but they know that that's not always the case. And there are people out there that don't have that. So just making sure that if you are lacking in one area, maybe make sure you have like a really cool GitHub or you can show your projects and talk about that like on your resume, or doing the boot camp and talking about the cool projects you did there and like what the end goal was. So there's a lot of cool ways that you can get into the space. And if you guys have any questions on like different types of schooling or different certifications, just let us know. I can kind of give you a range of that, but I kind of wanted to go into the different roles that we recruit in. So these are only 3 of them. I mean, we recruit in anything that's in the data lifecycle. So there are a lot of other roles kind of outside of this, but I would say these are the top 3 that are probably the most popular right now. I mean, I 100% place the most data analysts out of anyone that I typically place. And so data analysts, Tyler and I were actually talking about this yesterday, but like data analysts and BI developers they do seem to be different roles in theory, but recently we've seen a pretty big push and kind of pushing them together as more of like a hybrid role. So doing some of the development on the back end while also doing their front end, like analytics work and working with stakeholders. So they're looking for someone who can kind of do a little bit of all of it. But with that in mind, there are people who just focus on the reporting side, and there are some people that just focus more on like the back end side. But ultimately, like the data analyst, they want to use the data that they're working with to analyze it and make decisions that can ultimately help make the business grow or what have you. But a lot of it does involve analysis and generation of, some sort of dashboard or report. So I would say those are very common and very, very popular right now, especially I would say more of the junior roles. If you're trying to even get kind of associated with the data space, I feel like analyst is a pretty good starting point, or, maybe reporting developer, something like that. Data engineer is someone who is very back-end focused. I mean, they're very much so building the entire infrastructure of the systems and that you're working with. Like they're making sure that everything from the beginning of finding the data to transforming the data to making sure that it's loaded properly, like they're doing it all to make sure that everything on the front end is being run properly. So typically data engineers are very much so not looking to do the front end facing stuff, like not as business user focused, but I mean, you still have to have a good understanding of what they want in order to even get your job done. And we have seen hybrid roles of a mixture of that too, where they're still doing like the front end stuff, but for the most part, you just need to be able to collaborate with teams that are doing that. But typically it is a more senior role, at least someone who's got like 3 or 4 years of experience. But it's a very interesting role. And I would say that engineering in general is a very popular field that people go into. And then lastly, data scientist is probably one of the roles that I feel like everyone kind of wants to get into. It's kind of like the future of data, because I feel like people are really interested in like the predictive modeling side. You're doing a lot of, similar things, like you're interpreting the data and taking analysis, but you're doing more than just that. You're not just focused on present reports. You're looking at things that ultimately will help the business grow down the line, making sense of that data and, predicting things that could really, really help make the business grow down the line. But I would say, like, I've seen a lot of, even now master's programs where you can get a data science master's program or things like that. So it's definitely something that is growing. And it's cool that I know a lot of data analysts actually have the opportunity to do like kind of dabble in work that would be considered more data science focused. So again, there's a lot of cross collaboration with all these roles, which is kind of the cool thing about even being in the data space, because even if you're not interested in sticking to being a data analyst the rest of your life, you can always like be in a role that kind of gives you the opportunity to see what other roles are like while you're in a position. So that's probably it on my end. If anyone again has any questions, we can talk about it at the end. But yeah, I hope that was helpful.
Thanks, Susan. Were there any roles specifically within this group of people that you were looking to hear about, or that you didn't hear, other than these three main categories we touched on? No. Okay, I'll move on. Okay, so I'm going to be talking a little bit about the barriers to entry and how we as recruiters and salespeople push back on them and try to overcome them. So one of the biggest ones that when I'm talking to candidates is we hear a lack of professional or corporate experience. So like Susan was saying, someone who's just out of college, maybe worked a role or two, but has done a boot camp and kind of learned all of those skills in a classroom type setting and hasn't actually put them to work in corporate America yet. And the three biggest ways that we combat that, if that's the feedback that we're getting from a client, I always like to submit a portfolio. So if you've worked on anything, any project you created in your bootcamp, or you have a GitHub, or you have a lot of platforms now have, you can make a public profile. So like Tableau Public or something like that. And then just other sample work. If you've created a dashboard in Tableau Public, you can, and they have a bunch of dummy data, just random data sets that you can create with, and I'm using Tableau specifically, but anything that you're able to produce something and show it to the manager as what you'd be able to give them and add value to their team is great. And those are kind of the three ways that we push back on that feedback. Another one of the biggest ones is when companies have specific tool requirements in their job description. And in the data space, there are ample amount of tools. A lot of them do the same thing and can do the same thing, but have a different process or just a different way of doing that. And that's key to talk to your recruiter. And that's kind of why Computer Futures is different, because we focus on, we're all siloed to within a vertical market, and we try to specialize in that only. So every day, all day, every day, Susan is talking to people in the data space. So she's very well versed in the different tools, what their capabilities are, and how other ones are similar and different. And so let's say a client of mine, Capital One, is looking for someone, a data engineer specifically, who's used Alteryx, which is a data integration tool. But Jane, the candidate, has everything they're looking for, but has never used Alteryx, but has done something similar in Tableau with Tableau Prep Tool. It does the same thing. It's very similar, it gets the job done in a different way, but having a recruiter on your side be able to push for you and kind of explain that and help formulate an answer, how you can still get that job done with a different tool and possibly be brought up to speed with Alteryx very quickly because of the knowledge you have of kind of that entire process already. That's key. And that's a big point of working with recruiters is we can push for you in ways that you can't push for yourself if you're just submitting applications online and getting denied. You've had no opportunity to get FaceTime with that manager. And that's something that me working on the client side, I have no matter what. If we're submitting your profile, I'm going to talk to the manager one-on-one about you specifically. And so I can push back for you. And it ties into my next point. We're advocates for you. As recruiters, it's our job to, first off, manage everyone's expectations, but push for you. And when someone says no, we push back no matter what, no matter the reasoning from a client that they're saying no. They really need to explain the significance and the why, because it might have been lost. Something might have been lost in translation. It might have been on our end where we didn't explain something properly, or maybe you didn't understand the question in the interview properly. We're always going to push back, and we're always going to try to not rectify the situation, but give you the best fighting chance we can. And some of the ways that we do that up front is I always like to take references for anyone that's interviewing for any job that is for one of my clients. And I like to personally take that reference because I know what the manager wants. I know kind of what questions he or she would like answered in a reference. And if I'm the one taking that reference, I can tailor it specifically for that person, just to be able to submit it and give you the optimal chance of booking an interview and going into it with as much information as possible, so the manager doesn't feel the need when he leaves to book a follow-up interview and he has or she has all the information going into it. And then another one is relationships. A lot of the clients that I specifically worked with, I've worked with since the day I started with Computer Futures. They were relationships I built or either took over with my time here. And it's just something that you're not able to build a relationship as a candidate just applying to a job on LinkedIn or on a company's website. So let us leverage that relationship for you, because our relationship becomes your relationship. So let us use it to your advantage. Are there any barriers to entry that anyone's seen that I didn't add to this slide? There definitely are more, but anything specifically that you want to ask a question, and I can answer it or Susan can answer it. No, okay. And then this is just a current status of the data industry. And these numbers are all over the past 60 days. So kind of hitting on those 3 or 4 main jobs that we recruit for on our team. So data science, over the past 60 days, there have been 80,000 postings for jobs. And that's contract, full-time, that's the whole gambit. And these numbers are pulled from Dice and LinkedIn. Dice is a job board if no one's ever used it or heard of it. And so 80,000 jobs have been posted most recently. And kind of some of the biggest clients that we see that have been posting them are in the tech and financial space. Meta, Apple, JP Morgan Chase, Salesforce, and Booz Allen, which is a consulting firm. And a few of these, not all of them, are clients of ours. But it should show like the sheer number of opportunities out there that we can either get you submitted to or help you craft your resume and things like that to get submitted to. On the data analyst space, 124,000 postings in the last 60 days. And like Susan was saying earlier, a lot of what we're seeing now, some of like the most specific skills are strategy and statistics, kind of that not predictive modeling that comes along with in the data science space, but really looking at numbers and things like that to figure out where a lot of the data analytics space is not revenue generating, but revenue saving. So building those data visualizations around statistics and strategies that they've already put in place and what they're going to look to put in place. And the biggest skill that we see on everything is expert level SQL. I'm sure you guys all know that. But a lot of what Susan does for many of our clients, like she said, are assessments, and a lot of those are within SQL. For data engineering, we've seen 130,000 postings in the last 60 days. And the biggest things that when talking to clients and kind of what it is that they're looking for are building data connections and data packages and working in their warehousing. So building out large data warehouses and data marts and data lakes and things like that. And a lot of the pushback that we get when speaking to clients that have interviewed candidates and things like that are is the size of their experience. And that's one thing that we haven't been able to figure out exactly how to push back upon just yet. So clients that are a bit larger, like Salesforce, they have huge size of data. And if you've worked for smaller clients in the past, that's just not something that you would have experience with yet. And that's exactly where the making a Tableau public profile would come into place. I know it's not specifically building out a data warehouse, but it would give you the size comparison to some of these clients and really give you the scale of experience that some clients are looking for. And that is one of the biggest things to push back upon is the scale of experience. So just building out a portfolio or any public profile to show that you're able to handle that scale is huge. And then a business intelligence developer, so 17,000 postings in the last 60 days. And that's someone creating reports and kind of sharing those reports with either business users, presenting them sometimes to them. And that's a lot of technical skill with reporting tools like Click, Tableau, things like that, but also being able to speak to those business users and end users, understand the requirement and what it is the real problem is they're looking to either solve or convey in the report, and then being able to go back and produce that. And again, portfolio, sample work, anything like that is always huge. And that kind of wraps it up for us. I know we threw a lot. I can stop sharing my screen. We threw a lot of information at you really fast. Was there anything that we missed or that you'd like to hear or that you liked and would like more information on?
I had a quick question. Are there any more, I guess, legitimate or popular data science boot camps that are kind of, more interesting to some of these larger companies that you've seen, like more candidates get interviewed or offered jobs?
I haven't specifically seen where a client referenced someone's boot camp by name or anything like that. But I think in the boot camp, we always know that these candidates and the students are producing models and things like that. So being able to leave that boot camp with something that you've produced and are able to reproduce and share is key.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think some of the top ones that I've seen that I wouldn't say, again, like what Tyler said, I don't think that we've ever had someone even bring up their education or their boot camps, but I think it's just that I can tell that in a job description, especially when we're taking a call with a client, they typically ask for someone who's got the degree. But when it comes to the boot camp, I've seen General Assembly, I've seen Coursera, I've seen I think Udemy might be one, But I know I did talk to 2 candidates like within the same week, and they both had done some sort of data science, like General Assembly boot camp. So, I mean, in general, they said that they liked it. So you could always look into that one. But it's 100% how you like portray yourself on your resume and how you portray yourself in an interview. So if you can take what you've been doing in that boot camp and like really list all the things that you've done and how you've grown and how you know like that's exactly what you want, then they're gonna notice that on your profile and in an interview.
And to follow up on that too, when you can take what you learned in the boot camp and then after talking to the manager and really understanding the business problem they're looking to solve, tie what you learned in the classroom and how specifically it's going to solve that business problem. And if you don't know the problem they're looking to solve in the interview, ask. 100% ask. That's something we as recruiters, we're always looking to get before we even start recruiting is what problem are we looking to solve? What goal are we looking to achieve? But if you don't have that corporate experience of solving problems or anything like that yet, or achieving goals, being able to tie in what you've done in the classroom and how it specifically is applicable to that job is crucial.
Okay. Yeah, I guess my question was around like where have you seen candidates get the best training? So let's say you placed a candidate in a role and you've heard some feedback that that program was not sufficient enough to help that person build the skills that are needed, or wow, this candidate really learned a lot in this program, be it a boot camp or a master's level degree. I mean, I'm assuming like for a data science role, you're gonna probably need some sort of graduate degree, right?
Not all the data scientists that we've placed before have specific master's degree or anything like that. If they're going into the financial space, they usually do have a very high level mathematics, economics, or statistics degree. But they don't always have very high level education degrees. I'm not saying that that's not the way to go. And Susan and I can put together a list that we can pass out through BTG and Katie, just to you guys, of programs that we've not interacted with specifically, but ones that our candidates have. And we've gotten positive feedback from our clients and the candidates, and we can definitely pass that out to you guys.
But yeah, as I mentioned, the General Assembly one, I know I've gotten like good feedback on, and like we've had candidates interview with that boot camp, and I mean, they get great feedback. I would just like, typically if you're looking for a job and you're out of a boot camp, or like if you've already graduated from the boot camp, then you should continuously be doing your research around the technical skills that you're using while you're interviewing, because a lot of these managers are going to make you do like coding sessions or like whiteboarding sessions, like any sort of technical assessment. So you want to be able to use the knowledge that you're getting from these boot camps, whether it's at your school, at your current job, or anything, and just be able to apply it. So I would just it just needs to be relevant in your mind when you're interviewing, no matter what. Like if you've done a boot camp, that's fine. Just need to make sure that you can like use what you've learned to actually apply it into the interview.
Okay, great, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Do you have any advice for career changers?
Yes, I think, I mean, I definitely do. I feel like it's another thing about the way that you portray yourself like on your resume. I know I keep going back to it, but I even had a candidate, this is a really good example that Tyler and I actually worked together on it, but we had someone who his role wasn't very marketing analytics focused, but he was, considered kind of like an analyst. He was actually, I think, considered a manager for analysts, but he had little mini things in the role that would have helped him in the marketing role, but it didn't really, like his resume didn't read that he would have been the best fit for it. So, but he wanted to make the change. He was open to change. He was open to just seeing what else is out there. So, you know, if that's the case, then you should think about the roles you want and then try to fix your resume to cater like what you're looking for. So think about what you're doing in your day-to-day job. If you're doing some sort of like marketing component and you want to find a job that's more marketing focused, then make your resume look like that's what you want, because we get a lot of profiles that'll be like, oh, I did the data science bootcamp, but I like marketing, and then I like, you know, I've done this, but it's not flowing naturally. So you want the resume to come off like, you know, exactly what your objective is and what you're looking for, in order for them to understand like what you're looking for, and just have a clear cut mind of like, I want this type of job, instead of being kind of like wishy-washy and having a bunch of different things on your profile. Yeah, because the more you know what you want, the more the manager will know that's, you know, what you want. But if you're, you know, completely going from one industry to the next, like you haven't even entered the tech space, then I would definitely do some research on like what you find interesting. I would probably encourage you to look into doing one of these boot camps, because I think that's probably going to be the first way to be exposed to any of these technical skills. There's not going to be that many managers that will just like completely hire someone that has no, like at least any sort of like exposure or familiarity, but you could look into an internship too that maybe would get you that exposure. But it has to be some sort of like hands-on when it comes to actually training in the boot camp setting, or just, yeah, finding ways to like do some sort of internship. But I hope that's helpful.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with Susan. I think you definitely need to do, and I think it adds a level. You're going to be doing a lot more prep work before going into any interview than anyone else, just because you've spent your career in either a different field, a different industry, or essentially not doing what it is you're interviewing to do in corporate America. And so you're going into it with a completely different background, but that's a disadvantage and an advantage, because if you're able to tie everything that you're bringing in from another industry and how it will help you in any way, shape, or form, that's huge. And I think another piece of advice would be do a lot of practice interviews. Learn how to sell yourself properly to these managers. And that's where working with recruitment agencies comes into place. Before every interview, you could sit down with your recruiter and go over every question that they anticipate. Sometimes we get the questions that the managers are going to ask you. Sometimes we don't, but really have solid answers prepared to those typical interview questions, and going into it and really make sure it flows properly so you're able to sell yourself. Any other questions? Nope. Okay. Well, I will make sure that we get the list of boot camps specifically around data science and things like that, and we can get them over to Katie, just the ones that we've heard good things about and everything like that. But I don't have anything else. Elizabeth, do you have anything?
No, one sec. Hey, I'm back. No, I'm good. Just really everyone, this is, the first of a series that we'll be doing with Girl Develop It. So if you enjoyed it, let us know. I've posted a link to our post-event survey in there as well. Also, it also provides an opportunity for you to get your resume in front of Tyler and Susan as well. So if that's something that you just want to take this conversation offline as well. I totally get that. Sometimes I don't even know my questions until I've signed off and then it like hits me all of a sudden. So don't hesitate to reach out or get connected on LinkedIn, send an email. We're very findable. But that's really it. And we hope that you enjoyed it. Also hope that you can attend next week's session as well. And that's really all I have for y'all.
Thanks
This
everyone.
is great. Thank you so much. We'll be sending a follow-up email with these connections and the survey as well that Elizabeth just posted that we'd love to have your feedback on. But thank you so much, Susan and Tyler. That was so informative, and I really appreciate this time just to be able to connect and ask questions. So thank you for that.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for
Thanks.
do this. Bye everyone.
Bye. Thank you.